We gotta make a selection. Boom. Gunpowder. And then we come over here and we can select how many gunpowder we want, how much gunpowder we want, 6, 8, 16, 32, 64, etc. So we, click the firework until it's on 64. That's how much I need today. And that's how much you want today. And then you hit this button, you start hearing a heartbeat, and then you follow me. It comes out of this carpet. There's some. 37, 34, 44, 64.
Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube video. So recently I uploaded a Twitch clip to my Instagram showing off this massive farm that I've been working on for almost a year and a half now, and well, it kind of blew up. Like, this is kind of doing numbers kind of video. So I got a lot of questions of how I built this farm, how the redstone works, and why I should go to such lengths to build a system like this. So today I'm going to be going over how I built some of this redstone, the mechanics, and some of the design choices I made along the way. Now, I should mention, this farm is a work in progress, so if you want to watch future updates with this farm, or really just like this video, feel free to stop by my Twitch channel where I'm live on certain weeknights, or just want to hang out, come say hi. So, without further ado, feel free to like and subscribe and enjoy the video. Okay, so with the idea of the farm, the idea is that we have a lot of separate resources. We have a lot of sugarcane, we have a lot of pumpkins, gunpowder, prismarine shards, prismarine crystals, things like that, and we need to basically build a system that allows us to queue up as many of those items as much as we want almost instantly. So if you have a collection system, right, you most likely are going to be using some sort of hopper dropper mechanic where your items will come in and they'll go into the dropper and you'll have some sort of redstone signal. And let's see, in this case we'll just use a button to dispense the item to you, right? But how do you quantify that so that this dropper knows how much to drop? So first you have to look at certain systems. There are two systems that are all rolled into one, and I think it's actually a total of 4 or 5 systems. And I'll go over every single one of them separately. But the first one is the actual counting mechanism. And I think that's the most complex part, so I'm actually going to go over that first, and then it'll kind of get easier from there. So this is all that is required to have a redstone system count for you. You can do up to, you can have up to 640 items queued at once with this system. I'm sure there's different ways to scale this, but I'm not going to go into that. I'm just going to disclaim, I'm not a redstone expert. A couple of these redstone systems I found online, but the conglomeration of every redstone system was all built by hand for me. So the idea is actually using a hopper style clock. If you're familiar with Ethos, I think it's Ethos hopper clock, that's been built years and years and years ago. I use them regularly for some systems. It kind of runs off of a similar mechanic, but we'll start from the top a little bit. So the idea is that when you face two observers against each other, they will spit out a redstone signal that repeats really fast. In this case, you can kind of see how this operates like this. So when two observers face each other, they spit out a redstone tick. And that's actually a pretty good way to manage that constant ticking mechanism that we need to dispense a certain amount of items. And that's what this is over here. And to make them touch and actually start that repetitive ticking process, we'll use a piston. That way this can extend, touch the observer, and it'll start ticking and dropping our arrows in this case. And then on the other side of that is basically a hopper clock, but it is cut in half where the piston usually faces the redstone block. So usually there's a piston facing like this way, right? And you have your items in for how long you want, right? A hopper clock is, if you are familiar with a hopper clock, you know that a hopper clock is how many items you put in. The more items you put in, the longer it goes. And that runs off that same mechanic. So the mechanic is how many items I put in divided by 2. So however many items I want, you can use half the amount. I put half the amount of items in the hopper. So for this example, I'm going to put 8 redstone dust into the hopper that is under this redstone block. And so when this triggers, the redstone dust will start filling into this hopper here. So it'll pulse for 16 times and it will dispense properly 16 times. Now I should get onto the other side of this. Onto the other part of this is like on the other side of the block, there's actually an observer which is connected to a piston. And what that does is when I press the button somewhere off in the distance, that'll cause this piston to go up. Instead of there being a piece of redstone dust right here, like there normally is with a hopper clock, it's an observer this time. And so it's waiting for a signal to start, right? A hopper clock will run indefinitely, but this allows you to trigger it by hand. So what happens is when you give this piston a redstone signal, it'll come up, observe this piston, and then this will start the clock, which will bring the 2 observers to touching each other, and then it'll start spitting out this. And for example, I just have a piece of string right here. It doesn't matter what kind of redstone thing you have to trigger it. I will have to say is that you do have to keep in mind that the redstone air blocks around it, under this, and above this, and behind it, are all important. Right now, if I walk under this, it's going to stop. It's going to start at least. You can see how that runs. And we'll actually let this run a couple more times. But this time we're going to increase the amount here. So we're going to put 2 stacks of redstone dust in there. And we'll fill up this dropper really quick. Yep. So right now I'm gonna go trigger this again. You can see that all of the items are slowly dispensing out of here. This is gonna spit out 2 redstone ticks per item that it's in here. So we put 2 stacks of redstone dust inside of the hoppers, and what that's gonna do is that's going to spit out twice the amount of items because there's 2 ticks, or 2 pulses basically, per item that transfers over to the hopper. So what we should see is roughly 4 stacks of iron. You can see this piston is still up because this block is this, yeah, there we go. because this comparator is observing this, and it's outputting that redstone tick, which is allowing this block to stay up because the piston is extended. So we should see, let me get rid of the iron, we should see 4 stacks of iron sitting here. Yep. And there is a cooldown on this because it has to transfer the redstone back over. That is the only downside to this style of clock. I'm sure someone out there could build a better version of this, but this is the only one that I found that was compact and slim into a 1 block thick area that I could easily fit it into my farm. Okay, so that is the clock mechanism. Now let's go over to, okay, so you have the clock that can produce the amount of items that you want, right? But say, how do you select that, right? In my farm that I showed in my video, we use an item frame, and there are probably other ways you could use cool levers. I think levers would be a pretty easy mode to do, but I wanted to simplify the experience because I am obsessed with the idea that you could choose what you want within an item frame, because an item frame has up to 8 different choices or 8 different redstone ticks. So what I'm going to do is I capitalized on that, and this is a redstone item frame selector, which basically, I get some redstone repeaters. This outputs basically one redstone line or one piece of redstone or whatever that I choose. So basically when I click this, it's going to move this pulse, this redstone pulse, down by 1. I'll do a nice overhead shot kind of so you can kind of understand the redstone. But what this does is this allows me to pick exactly what clock I want to do, which clock I want to use. In this case, this allows up to 8, and that's what I did. It actually works out, the math works out to be just about right, because there's 8 choices on a item frame. A sign here. Actually, I don't need a sign, but and there is a reason I'm using a firework, that's because when I go and put it into the item frame, it is the only thing that is pointing upward. You can't use, unless you wanted to, you could still use a sword, but it always, like, if you wanted to use like a pointer, this is always skewed off to the top right, and we wanted to make sure that the first selection was up top, so that's why I use a firework. There are a few other things you could use, but I think a firework looked the best. It kind of looks like an arrow, so I was pretty happy with that. You could use a candle. A candle's kind of nice. So what this does is I have 2 different systems here. I have the clock selecting mechanism and the mechanism that is the clock, that dispenses the correct amount of items that I want. So now I have to roll all of this into one and build this out. I'm not going to go over the exact specifics of how to combine all of this, but I will give some very high overview shots of kind of how this looks. So there are 4 separate systems here combined into one. So the first system is the selecting. And this basically says, okay, I want to select the first clock. In this case, I have it set at 2. And this is just what I've set it up. It's not defined by this yet. This selector doesn't know that it's 2. The clock knows that it's 2. So basically, when I click on this item frame, it's going to move. It's basically going to say, hey, I want this clock to run. And I added an extra set of pistons, as you can see from over here. Go back over here. Instead of using a piece of string, I used a dual set of pistons to give the redstone pulse its necessary needed tick. So in this case, let's say we wanted to do 16. That's going to select the 4th clock right here. Gonna invert this signal. It's gonna push this piston down. And this piston right here is what allows the final button press to actually go through. So when the redstone signal comes through, this block right here, it's going to transfer the redstone tick to this piston, which is going to cause this block under here to be, it's not going to be powered, but it is going to be, this is where the quasi connectivity comes into play, because the air below this piston is basically chosen, I believe, by this comparator here. So you can see that some of them are extended, some are extended and some are not. That doesn't matter. So what that's going to do is this block is going to go down. So when the redstone signal comes through, it's going to go through here. It's going to extend this piston. This stone block is going to go here, and it's going to cause the signal to actually start running. And inside of this hoppers, there should be 8 pieces of redstone, which there are. And you can customize this however you want. If you want 1, 2, all you have to know is that the minimum amount that you can do is 2, and the maximum amount you can do is 320, which, or in hopper terms, that's 5 stacks, because that's how many items you can fit in a full hopper. So you can customize the number however you want, as long as it's divisible by 2. That's all that matters. So for this example, we want to have 32, 64. We can do a stack. Why not? So that's going to push this piston down, because it's going to use the selector mechanism. Selector mechanism is going to come down here, and it'll, when I'm ready, this will push this out, and it will pull this block away in this example, and that's going to cause the clock to start. Now, this is where the other 2 systems come into play. This is a So, and down here, and this is where the 4th and final system comes into play. And instead of there just being a dropper here, I actually have all of the redstone ticks go to an external output, which in this case is just a oversimplified dropper. And this is where the selection mechanism comes in. So you could have your storage system, you could have chests, you could have extra hoppers, and I have a whole hopper setup, but the idea, and this works exactly the same in my farm, is that when somebody selects what they want, in this case they want iron or they want redstone, let's say we want iron, that's going into a comparator, which is going into a repeater, which pushes this piston down, which the output signal from the clocks, any of the clocks, will all go to the same exact location, no matter what. The only thing that changes it is whether or not the redstone signal can get through to the stored iron or whatever you have stored. In this case, it could be sugarcane, pumpkins, iron, gold, whatever. So when you make that selection, what this does is it's just allowing the signal to pass. And that's the case for this as well. A lot of I like to use pistons because it's kind of like a stop and go, you know, mechanism, where if the block is not if the block isn't there, then the signal will not go through. So let's go. So we'll go through the system again. We have 2, 4, 8. Let's queue up 16 iron. So we're gonna select the correct clock, which is the 4th clock here. It's all compact into this single line here. And then I'm going to tell the system, hey, I want iron. And that's gonna select iron for me. And then I'm gonna go over here. And this is what you always press the button last, because that is what is I call it the commit button, because it is committing to the task that you ask of it. So when I press this, did I accidentally get one less? Because it threw one into the it did. Okay, hold on. Do that again. This time we'll go a little bit more so it runs a little bit longer. We'll do a max. We'll do a stack here. So we're gonna come over here. We have the 64th. We want 64 of iron. That's gonna select the final clock in the back here. Oh, actually, I should keep in mind. I forgot about the pulse. This actually. That's what this does. I forgot. It doesn't make it longer, it makes it shorter. This system over here. So, but the idea is that this actually turns the button into a single tick pulse, because a button is actually too long. And that is incredibly important, because if it's too long, it'll keep things extended for too long, and the clock will output the incorrect amount. So over here we have 64 selected. We have our piston that is down, which will allow the pulse to come through. And we're gonna come over here, and we're gonna hit the commit button. And you'll see right here, this will pulse for a fraction of a second. It'll pulse really quick. It's gonna cause this final clock to start ticking, which will output here. In this case, I have a hopper system set up so that it will come directly to right where I press the button, just as a example. And right here, there should be exactly 1 stack. Now, you may be asking why I choose water over hoppers, and that's because water allows all of the items to be delivered quicker to the person that chooses those items. For example, if I use a hopper system, it's going to take, if I put this sack of iron in here, you can see how slow that is. You want your iron quick, especially if you're queuing up 8 stacks, in this case, of iron. You're not going to want to wait this long for this to fill up. I do like this system better, but I told myself that I know it would be better if I use the water system, and it does complicate things when you start having water be moved around, especially around your redstone systems. The idea at this system at heart, which if you don't know what redstone is based off of, is just basic logic. I kind of started off at asking myself questions of how do I get a specific amount of items, and then how do I select that I want that many items, and that's what this system has turned into. So now it is time to finally go back. I'm gonna go back into our survival world and kind of go over it a little bit again. So now we're gonna go back over to where we were, and I did make some tweaks to the clock, but it's very much no different. The output just goes to a different location. Andrew, if you don't mind going up there and selecting for me Can you kind of go through the individual selections one at a time? And I'll tell you when to go. So here we have our selection mechanism. And it is on the first tick, which in this case is the first basic clock, which is set to 2, if I'm correct. Right, Andrew? Or is it 4?
It's 4.
It's 4? Okay. Because I wanted to, yeah, I think I doubled the number each time. So that redstone tick from that selection is going to follow all the way down here. And what that does is makes it so that all of these blocks makes it so that these redstone signals don't touch each other. So it'll come all the way down here, and it's going to select this first clock. And Andrew, you said that there's 4, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that means that there's 2. It doesn't matter what items you use to transfer over. I think I just had a bunch of deep slate on hand, so I used deep slate. And you can customize this to whatever you want. I'm gonna go back up here. So go ahead and select, just slowly go through the rotations. Cool. Why don't you go back to 256 for me, if you don't mind? Cool, thank you. I will say I did add an extra set to this, the selection mechanism. I actually doubled back on the redstone that uses the selection mechanism. I split the signal, I spliced it, I should say. And I added little jukeboxes, or not jukeboxes, note blocks to make some sort of acoustic feedback, which I think in Minecraft, especially with the redstone system, acoustic feedback is incredibly important. It allows the user to understand what they're doing and kind of get an idea of how much they're going to be queuing or what. So if you want to rotate through them again, kind of quick, like how you normally would. Cool. And we can go back to 256. Thank you. And I did make the sounds for each of them go a little bit like louder or higher pitched, so that way it's like, hey, you're getting, you're increasing the quantity of the amount. Okay, so now we know that that is selected, so this is the 256 clock, and then we'll actually follow the commit signal or the send signal all the way back to where the button is, and that's actually way over here. That's because it's on the other side of the farm. One of the comments I got was, why is the button on the other side? It's honestly just because of symmetry, and it kind of is the out of the way. I did need to build this little single tick pulse selector, and that would have gotten in the way of my redstone, if I can actually get up here. And this system is exactly the same of how it is in my single player world. So go ahead and press that button. Before you do, let's make a selection. And I will come over. I'm gonna come out here. And now this is the storage system, but it is queued up exactly to a dropper, which goes into a water stream, which is located right here. So, Andrew, now that you're on the other side there, why don't we queue up 256 gunpowder, sugarcane, and cactus. So he's going to select all 3 of those. And what that's going to do, and I'm going to show the other side of this. From the other side is it's going to push those pistons down. And that's saying, hey, I want to queue up this many items. So you can queue you can queue all items all at once, and you can queue you can quite literally max the system out You could queue up 512 of all items, which I don't recommend. But you can do it. It is feasible. It wouldn't break anything, but it is very much feasible. And so what happens when Andrew hits that button, which I'll allow him to here in a second, this redstone, these two observers are going to touch, and it's going to output this tick to every single piece of redstone you see sitting here, which is a lot of redstone. It can very much lag your computer or lag your server, so you have to keep that in mind when you do that in the future. So Andrew, we are queuing up 256 gunpowder, sugarcane, and cactus. Why don't you go ahead and hit that button? You can see those two observers over there are touching, and that is what's outputting the signal. It's very important that the signal doesn't travel backwards. It only travels forwards. And you'll actually see all of those items are getting dropped. They're flying through the ground here. And what they're doing is they're coming down along here. Down here, I might pick up some by accident. I'm gonna try not to. And what that's gonna do is that's going to output all of those items up through a bubble elevator to the center of the farm. I love this angle right here because I don't really get to see it that often because I'm usually the one queuing the items. And there is a slight delay until it's finished. But he queued up 4 stacks of every single item. And that's all of it. So I'm gonna actually go upstairs and go see what Andrew has. Alright. So all of the items they all get stuffed into this corner. I think it's just because that's the way it is. I think if they come from the other side of the farm, they'll go into this corner. I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried about it. I could try to center it and stuff like that, but that would take a couple extra seconds longer. And I'm kind of impatient, so. Well, here we have 4 stacks sugarcane, 4 stacks of gunpowder, and 4 stacks of cactus. Now I'm going to go over the aesthetics part of the farm, and some extra over mechanic stuff. The first thing is the storage system. I'm not going to go too far deep into the storage system. There are plenty different storage systems out there. You can figure out kind of like how you want to have your own storage system, because I think that's the part that is the most customizable. What I have is a fairly basic storage system, but I use hopper minecarts instead. So what happens is the items come in from all of the farms. Let me go outside really quick. Oh, that's a problem. Don't worry about that. There is about a bajillion mobs on the other side of that wall. I'll need to take care of that. Got to light that up. That might be what's slowing down our farms, actually. Oh no. But yeah, so all the items come in through what are these pipes right here. So you'll see, let's see, we can find a good place. So here's the melon and pumpkin farm, and I believe the cactus farm as well. They come down through these tubes, dispensed here, they go down here, they get dropped. And they come through this Honeywall, which this is totally aesthetic. I don't recommend doing this. This complicates your farm probably by a little bit. But I figured I was already in this deep that I could do whatever I want, however I want. So what I decided to do is I made a Honeywall. If you don't know what a Honeywall is it just what it does is it just dispenses the items under the wall, and they kind of fall in this slow slow motion that looks really nice and clean. So you can actually see all of the items that come into the farm before they get sorted. So all the items come down here. All of the items come down here. There's a reason there's also honey blocks there. They come down here. They go up this tube, up through a bubble elevator. And then on the other side of the bubble elevator, they come along this water stream. And this water stream does a little bit of a loop right here, and that's important too, but I'm not going to go over the specifics. Basically, I'll just say that the reason the items come over here is so that they get aligned with that chest, and they are specifically lined up directly in the center of the block, so that way they can be picked up by the hopper minecart that is below. So you'll see all the items come along here, see some things disappear, or you'll see some things get burned. Most of the items I have from these farms are just getting destroyed because I don't have an overflow. This farm has a max cap of 3 double chests, 7 hoppers. No, sorry, a little bit more than that. It has this dropper, this hopper, 2 hoppers, chest, 2 hoppers, chest, 2 sets of hoppers, chest, hopper, and then 2 hopper minecarts to fill up. So more than enough that I'll ever need, so everything that's excess I'll void. You can actually see that we queued up, what did we queue up? We queued up some gunpowder, some sugarcane maybe, so this hopper, maybe it's this hopper right here that's still trying to fill back up, yep. So we're just waiting for sugarcane to come in through the farm. And you can have any sort of organization system that you like. I built a more complex one to keep up with the demands of my farm. I don't recommend going this big. A smaller system would be the better way to go, but I think that this is a pretty nice system that I have going here. The glass, the obsidian, the andesite, the blackstone, all of that is pretty much aesthetics, just to kind of encase a lot of this. On the back side here, I put item frames so I know what is what, just as a visual aid for myself. So when I'm coming in through here, I need to know how much cactus I have. I know. See, haven't even filled up my cactus farm yet, so we're still waiting for that to fill up. We have melons, pumpkins, amethyst is probably going to take a decade, I'm not even joking, to fill, just because of my farm. But if you wanted to keep it simple, you could just have a sorting system for iron, gunpowder, poppy, stuff like that. So all of those items come in through the top, and they go into the most available hopper. And then at the bottom here, all of the pistons are up right now, but if they were selected, they would go down, and then the redstone to come through here. I also have an acoustic feedback, which is just a low style heartbeat. Andrew, if you don't mind dry running the farm with no items, so we can see the acoustic feedback as well. And there's no reason I have two lanes of redstone here. I just wanted to make it look consistent and centralized with the farm as well. Oh, did you was it selected on 4? Like increase that amount, if you don't mind. It's a really good view of how the farm works. I also added 2 extra areas over here where I can void items, so I can throw them into here and it'll just throw them into lava. And then I also have a return to system, so I actually have a system that'll dispense items back into the farm, so that way I don't if you know you craft a certain amount, you don't want any more, you can throw it and dump it back into the system, which just throws it back after the Honeywall and throws it back into the sorting system. You can actually see that's also why I don't have anything in the corner here. It's just because the redstone is very linear. You could actually splice out a whole section. I might do that just because it looks really cool from the side. I might splice out a whole section, which I kind of did in the single player that I showed off earlier, but I think that's all I wanted to show off today. But it's really cool to be able to come in here, select what you want, and have it dispensed. Now we only have this amount of items right here, so we only have, what is that, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 items. I think this can fit up to 52 items. I think every item you see on this wall and that wall just does not exist yet. This is so that in the future we can implement crafters and have all of the excess items be crafted and then thrown into the system again. And I think that'd be really cool. I think that'd be really cool is if we can actually set up a system to take any excess material, in this case specifically iron, right, and have it go through a crafter, and then that crafter spits those items back into the system to be sorted and be ready to queue up. So you could always queue up iron blocks as well. We might not do that, but I think that's going to be a high possibility, especially these 5 items on the left here. We might not do gold and iron. I haven't even built a gold farm yet, so yeah. There are I don't even know how many farms. Let's count. Let's do a count today. We have a guardian farm, 2 sets of creeper farms, so that's just 2 farms. We have an iron farm, or 4 iron farms, soon to be 12. Yeah, so we have 4 iron farms. That's 3 sets of farms, and then we have 5 technically. We have cactus, pumpkin, and melon. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10. So we are up to 10 farms now, which is pretty crazy. And we'll probably max out at about, I don't know, maybe 15 farms. Gold, bamboo, kelp, honey, yeah, something like that. And that's pretty much it. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Like I said before, I will leave all of the links to some of the redstone that helped me complete this build down below. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.